Whether you're sick of being a broke artist or you just want to learn how to grow and sustain a scalable art business, this will make everything easier. And while you watch me draw this, learn my simple framework to help make your art business more valuable, everything that you do more valuable, so that you get more money, more reliably, more consistently, no matter what art business you have or you want to grow. And if you're looking for a winning strategy, this is it. Now, at the outset of this video, what makes me want to make this is just the fact that, first off, I struggled with this myself for years, just like you. And I want to go ahead and bring a lot more clarity so that you don't have to struggle through that. Also, I work with people one-on-one in my mentorship, and this is the most frequently discussed topic. And so I really felt like I needed to go ahead and help you with this one, because for myself personally, I've been able to grow my art business over the last 10 years from doing $35 commissions to upwards of $1,500 commissions and bringing in $2,000 to $5,000 monthly. And if you've never met me before, my name is Sean. Welcome to the Art Mentor. And today I want to give you this framework right here. And look, y'all, this triangle, although simple, is going to bring you all the success and all of the value that you need and maybe you don't have in your art business. And if you're scratching your head going, why can't I get seen? Why can't I make my sales? Why can't I hit my targets? Why can't I break into the market? This is going to make everything easier for you. Whether you're trying to freelance, whether you're trying to sell stuff at conventions, whether you're trying to sell your own merch, whether you're even trying to make social media content and so much more, all of these will be able to apply to you and so much more. So here we go, let's rock into this. Now, the best example I want to give you for this framework is one near and dear to me, and it has to do with niching for your actual artwork that you're making for freelancing. This is the most popular reason why I work with people and the type of content that I produce here. And so when most of the time people say that they have a niche, I want you to see how they actually don't. And let's say that they enjoy making fantasy-esque artwork. So here's what they're gonna tell me. They're gonna say, Sean, check it out. I like to make witches and zombies and dragons and knights. And I just wanna let you know that's not a niche, okay? What you're describing is something far lower, far more reductive, and that is what I would call content. And there are so many artists that get stuck in this content zone. And this is a big issue in terms of why you're not getting the value that you want and you're not creating it for anybody else. This is, just to put this in perspective, imagine that you owned a restaurant, okay? And I asked you, hey, what kind of food do you make at your restaurant? And you said, well, we make chicken and beef and pork, okay? Just so you know, you didn't describe exactly what kind of restaurant you have. You just told me what ingredients you use. And so that is where most creators get stuck in the content hell zone. And now let's level that up, okay? A lot of times I'll ask people, okay, what's your niche that you're interested in or that you're currently in? And they'll say things like, I like to make epic fantasy battles, or I like to make swordplay and sorcery. And again, that's not a niche. What you're therefore describing, just to put this into perspective again, in that restaurant scenario, this is basically like you saying, well, we grill the chicken, and we fry some stuff, and we season everything with different spices. Okay, so now you're just telling me how you're preparing that. But we're still not there, and you're still not getting nor creating the value for what you actually want. And so just to zoom this out all the way now, when you're actually gonna focus on a niche, what I would say a good niche, like this is my personal one that you're watching me literally draw stuff for right now, this is Dungeons and Dragons art. And so what you gain from this one, and what I really want you to see, is where you're going to get the value from this one and how this is going to help your art business. Now, I said that you just need to know this triangle, right? But I minorly lied. So now you can see that this is more in the shape of an hourglass, and it has an inverted triangle at the bottom right here, okay? So check it out. If you're freelancing right now, this is going to make everything clear. If you're just making content, you are getting completely random results. You get a commission over here, you don't for months. Is this you? Because you might just be stuck making content and not making niched artwork. And then let's zoom out from there. If you're stuck in the theme zone, okay, this is where you're gonna get more occasional stuff. It's less random, but you can't rely on it. And then zooming out from there, this is the power of niching. When you niche, this is when you can gain consistency. This is when you can reliably say, hey, I can know that I will bring in some money this month. I know that I will get clients and I can do it reliably. And I would say one of the biggest reasons that you've never been exposed to, as far as thinking about how some people get more money than others, is just the fact that you need to look at value from the structure of you've created value, and then therefore you've been reciprocated value. So the value that you create is the value that you are given back, okay? And that flows in both directions. This is not magic. This is not luck. And now later in this video, I'm gonna expand on this topic and how to do this with everything that you're doing in your freelance market and illustrations and artwork, but I also wanna put this into some other context. So check this out too. Now maybe you're not trying to freelance, right? Maybe you actually just wanna go ahead and create some merchandise. You wanna go ahead and sell your own products, right? Well, this one's for you. Let's take a look at this artwork. This is done by Lourdes, who, fun fact, was my first mentee ever, and I actually taught her in high school. And then when she graduated 5 years after that, that's when we linked up again, and that was happened to be when I started my mentorship. So she was my first one ever, so shout out to you. And she creates awesome artwork like this. And I'm gonna show you how she applied this strategy right here. Let's go. So if we're gonna take a look at this at a really reductive rate, we could say she is just at her content level making Sonic the Hedgehog. And if you're going to make Sonic the Hedgehog, I mean, you're gonna get really generic stuff like this. And so just think of it like this, y'all. How are you supposed to win if you're just creating characters? And we'll look at this through a convention merchandise perspective in just a little bit. But this is a popular concern I see, is that if you're gonna make merch and you're just gonna make that character, that's really not very valuable for you. And then if we zoom this out, and again, here's a couple examples of her stuff, we could look at the theme of this, which is we could do Sonic and Sonic's friends. We could also say, oh, it's Sonic in cool posing. And it's not just that. I'm gonna reveal what this actually is. But if we look at it like that, I mean, you can see her artwork, it's fantastic. But if we're just gonna stick to that theme, it's also gonna limit down what it could be and what your sales potential is. And so when I really thought about this, I said, you know what? This isn't really what you're fully into. There's something far greater that most people aren't gonna think about. And this is where you gotta have a big brain moment here and say, what am I actually selling? And so when I zoom out even more into the niche, here's what it is. This is about 90s nostalgia. And here are some of Lourdes' other products that she's making here. And so like for me personally, like I love this kind of stuff because I'm literally a 90s baby, okay? And I love Spyro the Dragon, I love Pokemon, I love Dragon Ball, I love Sonic. All of these remind me of my childhood. And what Lourdes is doing here, very simply, is that she's targeting her audience. And it's a brilliant move, and it's something that you need to think about too, instead of just saying, well, I just make Sonic the Hedgehog. No, you make 90s nostalgia stuff. And so now let's see, what does this mean and how does this apply to the value that you are given and you're received? So when you create content level value, you're just getting minimum appeal. You're getting the smallest possible dollar that you could possibly get for that. You don't want that, you know, and you can get better. When you're theming your merchandise next, then you're gonna get medium appeal. This will appeal to some people. It's a little broad. It's not gonna always hit the right people that you want though, and therefore you're gonna be able to get a little bit more money, but not the maximum amount. Versus now, when you're niche down, y'all, this is a really comfy, cozy place. This is when you can get focused appeal. This means that your product is reaching the right customers with the right bank accounts, with the right dollar signs in front of it. And they will pay for it because you are creating that type of an impact. And now, let's say that you're like, well, Sean, I don't make artwork as cool as this, or in this style, or I don't make artwork that's as good as that. Relax, I'm gonna go ahead and focus you into, again, how do you create that value in your artwork coming up very soon. But right now, just focus in here. If you're going to actually create any type of merchandise, you have to think, in a big brain moment here again, what am I actually selling? And what's the appeal to it? Because it's not just making Genshin characters or making World of Warcraft things or just making Sonic. It's much broader than that. Next, let's take a look at one of the most popular examples you're ever gonna see on this channel and from me when I work with people, and that's gonna be your commission examples. And I'm gonna make fun of myself here because I've literally done every single version of this one. So let's go. So check it out. If you wanna create the lowest level examples that will create the interest for the lowest level clients, here's what it's going to be. It's gonna be you making that figure, making that character with super basic lighting, okay? And listen, these are both my artworks. I'm not clowning on anybody else. I'm using myself as an example here. But this is where you're gonna get the lowest value type of client with the least return. And this is where you have the light coming straight on, or you have the light coming from the left or from the right. And every single time I work with somebody and they want to make a commission example, they're like top or left or right. And I'm like, God, no, stop doing that. Don't do it. But this is incredibly low value artwork that just doesn't have a good broad appeal to people. And it's really not that exciting. So therefore, if we go to an average value now, check this out. So here's a character that I did some years ago, and I think she embodies this. At this point, this is where we have more dynamics in place. We have the subject with dynamic posing and definitely with some dynamic lighting. This is the typical artwork that I show other people. I didn't make this. It's just a good example of how can you switch up the lighting? How can you go ahead and shift that so that it starts to show a little bit more about that character? You see where I'm going with this one? And so if you want average value on there, this will appeal to some more people, but it's still not maximum appeal. And what is that? Well, it's this. If you want highest value artwork, this is where we start to have character in our characters. This is where you're thinking about the lighting, you're thinking about the angles, you're thinking about the mood of the piece and other things that we're going to talk about as far as how do you create more value in your illustrations coming up very soon here. But if you're trying to create the best value for your customers and you're trying to get commissions, this is usually why you're not getting who you want or you're not getting that price tag that you want. And so just to break this down and make this even easier for you to understand, if you're creating low value artwork like I showed you, you're creating cheap art. You're at the race to the bottom. You're trying to go ahead and have this cutthroat race with everybody else that's trying to undercut each other. You don't want to play that game, y'all. I've been there. If you're creating average value art, this is when you're getting very inconsistent sales and you're getting inconsistent pricing. One client will pay this, other clients won't. One magical client will really pay this, and then you'll never get it again. It's very inconsistent, and therefore it's hard for you to track and do again. But then if you're getting highest value art, like right here, y'all, this is when you're getting expensive art. You're getting the right clients. You're getting the right people who will actually pay what you deserve because you are creating that value. Again, this is all about reciprocity. When you create value, they will give you value. Are you making any of these mistakes? Because I got more for you. Now, I want to talk to you big time about things like if you're making social media content, if you're making YouTube content, if you're making illustrations, you're learning, or you're into concept art. But I'm going to tell you before all that though, the biggest mistake that you'll make in creating the least amount of value is by not hitting that like and subscribe. So please make sure you do that and go ahead and share this with a friend if they're also struggling with this because I want to help reach as many artists like you as possible. So thanks so much for that. And now let's bust into this next example. Now let's see how this triangle also works if you're just trying to create better artwork, and specifically, let's say you're trying to create some bomb illustrations, but instead they're just blowing up in your face. Here's why. The most common reason that you're creating low value illustrations that nobody wants to buy is because you're doing this. You're creating a likeness. Likeness is the least valuable form of artwork. And this is when you're literally just showing your character. They're gonna say, here's the reference, and you're gonna go, boom, there it is, exactly like that. While these are even good examples I'm showing you right now, I'm gonna tell you, they're incredibly boring. You're literally just having the person stand there and show themselves and exactly what they're wearing, and nothing more than that. And y'all, we can do better. Here's how. Now, leveling that up, here's where we're gonna create more dynamic scenes. This is when we see the subjects are more in motion. This is when we see things like their hair is flowing or magic effects. This is cool, but it's still not the highest value because a lot of people do this, a lot of people can try this, but I'm gonna tell you a much bigger minority of people are doing this next level. At the highest level, this is when you're doing storytelling. And I think that you really need to consider this. If you're not getting the clients you want, if you're not getting the price tag that you want, this is always your number one culprit. Whether your character is standing still or whether you're doing a big group scene like some of these, this is what you want. And to show you some of my own examples right here, like you can see this example where I did this book cover illustration and there are these characters fighting this lava frog on the side of a really snowy mountain, and one character is hurt, one character is slashing the frog's tongue. there is an imminent scene here. And this is when you just really need to understand this. You are creating drama. Drama is your number one ingredient to great, valuable artwork, okay? If you don't have drama and nobody has any feeling from your artwork, this is not storytelling, and this is what you need to insert. Let's also check out this one right here. Here's this big old goblin queen who's just this gluttonous blob, and she's being fed all of these delicacies that look disgusting, don't they? And then we've got people in the back bringing her more food. We have this sniveling little goblin king in the corner who's like kind of afraid of her. This tells a story while she's eating a donkey. Y'all see that? And so this is the kind of stuff that you want to bring into it, and let's see what type of appeal this brings you. When you are going to create illustrations that just demonstrate a likeness, honestly, it's not that special. And because of that, this is very forgettable artwork. And so because of that, you're not going to be compensated as much. You're going to get very low value artwork that's not going to fetch you a very high price tag. Leveling that up, if you're going to then therefore go into more dynamic scenes where you introduce more dynamics, okay? This is where it's eye-catching. This is when you can actually start to stop a scroll. This is when, people are scrolling through what other people have posted, and they stop and they go, oh, that's kind of cool. But they might not stick with it. They might overlook you for the next level of it too, because again, you're attracting average value. When you start to level up to storytelling, whoa, this is a big moment here. When you're doing storytelling in your artwork, this is when people start to look at you and you're like, whoa, how did they do that? How did she make that? That's incredible. Oh my God. And then also, this is when you're creating marketable art. This is when you can create products. This is when you can create assets for companies that will earn you the highest possible dollar amount. So if you're not getting the highest dollar price tag, this is why. Use more storytelling in your artworks. Are you doing this or are you not? Now, let's break into a totally different topic. Are you trying to go ahead and sell stuff at conventions? Are you one of my people here? I've worked with a lot of y'all who are trying to sell your merchandise and all these other kinds of things, and then you're barely able to even make up your table cost? Or are you the type of person who still isn't even breaking even? Well, here's why, and here's how you fix this. Let's take a look at this example again. So at the lowest level value that you're going to create, it's going to be things like stickers and keychains. They're really low sticker, low price tag items. You know what I mean? These are nice. People sell them definitely, but just think about this. Like, how many stickers do you need to sell in order to actually make a full-time income? How many stickers would you have to sell in order to make up your table cost? It is an extreme amount, but nonetheless, they can be a low ticket item for everything else that we're going to sell. So if we go up from there, if we're going to go medium value, these would be things like prints. People, again, we're going to use this as far as what the meaning is all about and why people will pay more for that. So think about it like this. If you're going to create stickers and keychains, again, they're going to get discarded, they're going to get broken. Whereas somebody that buys a print, what are they going to do? They're going to put it up on the wall. They want to display it proudly. They want other people to see it, and they want other people to ask questions about it. Where did you get that? Who made that? That's awesome. There's still one more up from there. And at the highest level, if you're selling at a convention, the most important thing for you to sell is your custom works, is your commissions, and your personal branding. And just to expound upon that, this is what I mean. This is if you are taking commissions at all of your conventions, you're able to sell a lot less of them and make a lot more profits. And you're gonna have way less overhead for these. Also too, if you have your own custom things, like I have one of my mentees who loves to create like little resin fish, and she does a great job selling those. She makes a lot of money off that. That's awesome. Or if you have your own personal branding stuff, you have your own art book and things like that. This is your stuff that's unique just to you, highest level merchandise that you can sell at any convention. And now, what does this entail for you, and what is the value that you should hope to expect from that? First off, if you're gonna just pray and hope that you're only selling stickers, you can expect to probably be broke after you get out of that convention. You're not gonna sell that much. You're usually not gonna make up your table costs just from that either. And you're gonna have to sell and push a lot more products. Now, if you're only going to sell medium level merchandise, this is when you can expect to kind of break even. You might make a few bucks extra. You're going to make up your table costs, but usually not much more than that. But if you're gonna sell that highest value stuff, you are making money. You're in the black, baby. And you can actually come home and people are looking at you from other tables like, oh my God, how are they able to make so much? Or you might surprise other people with how much money you made, and they might have pushed more products, but they were cheaper products, and you made more money than them. Wouldn't that be awesome? So how does this change your perspective about the merchandise that you're selling at these events? Next, moving on, and let's say you want to make yourself some nice social media content. Is this you? Are you trying to create TikTok? Are you trying to create a presence on Instagram or similar platform? Or are you like me and you're just trying to create a good presence for yourself on YouTube? So here's how you want to go ahead and use the system right there. And here are some common problems that you're going to run into. First off, if you're going to just hop onto this platform of YouTube, because this is where I want to stick with right now, you are just going to create content of whatever. Every single video is totally random. Every single video is just whatever you happen to feel like this week. Oh, look, here's an art process, which by the way, no one cares about your art process. Please stop making art process videos. Nobody watches them. Nobody likes them. Everybody just skips ahead after the first 30 seconds and sees the final product. Nobody cares about your process videos unless you have a massive following already. And even them, they have really poor retention times. Rant over. But then you're also going to do like, oh, here's my sketchbook tour, here's my vlog. Every single video is just hip hop and everywhere around, and it just doesn't make sense, doesn't jive together. This is when you're stuck in content hell, and this is usually when YouTube creators that are new to the platform are like, oh my God, nobody likes me. There's no audience for me. I'm not getting what I wish I got. Well, here's why, because you're only making content. You're not making anything valuable for anybody. And then if you expand outward from there, and this is when you're going to create themed content. So now I realize, okay, I got to make an art channel. I'm going to make helpful art videos, and I would make tutorials, and I would try to create different informational sessions where I can actually help people. But listen, y'all, that's not enough from there. I realized I had to go a lot deeper than that, and I had to be more focused than that. When I expand outward, let's just say hypothetically that you have a specific audience that you want to reach, and you're like, hey, look, I want to make art content targeting young female entrepreneurs, people that are in their 20s that want to build a business, and they are specifically women, and what struggles do they have? That would be a great niche. For myself personally, I am the type of person who wants to create content and does create content here, who I do not come from Blizzard or Riot or any big name, big game industries. And I remember when I was first starting my channel, this is one of the things that I first realized is that like, I'm not seeing any helpful content from anybody that isn't already a big shot. And I think it's easier for big shots to make big shot impacts and make big shot type of content with big shot followings because they already have that support. It's not that hard, but what about the average person like me that was working full-time and growing their business part-time? And that's the type of content that I'm making. Again, if you like that, you know where to find me. But now again, how does this relate to and what should you expect from this one? First off, if you're just making random content that doesn't make any sense, you can expect to have low views and random audiences. You're gonna get people that are perfectly targeted. You're gonna get people that are way outside. You're gonna get people like your mom and your aunt that don't care crap about anything that you're making and they're not interested in it. That's not the audience that will grow and sustain you, friend. Zooming out from there, if you are gonna create theme-based content, you're gonna get very inconsistent views. I felt this for a long time, where I would get like, okay, here's 20 views, 100 views, 500 views, 200 views. Everything is going up and down all the time like this. And this is also when you can expect to have low durations. You're gonna have some audience that sticks with you. Most audience will not. You're gonna see a totally different group of people every single video you put out because, again, it's not that focused into it. And then expanding outwards, highest value. This is when you're gonna create the most amount of value for them and they're gonna give it right back to you. This is when you're gonna get very consistent views. This is when, like you can see here, you're gonna get high duration views. You're gonna create the best impact. You're gonna influence them positively, change some people's lives, hopefully too. Wouldn't that be great? And most importantly, this is when you're gonna tap into your right audience. You're no longer just gonna be making like whatever for whomever. And this is what most people don't understand about social media and personal branding. This is what you have to do. Putting this into another perspective now, here's a very popular thing that a lot of people come to work with me on, and it's how to get into concept art. And if you're wanting to get into this field, please perk up right now because I want to teach you what you're doing wrong and how to do it better. So check this out here. If you are creating base, low value, content level stuff, you're gonna do things like, hey, here is a mountainous region with big, huge rocks, or like, here's a fantasy castle, or here's another gem, here's a post-apocalyptic scene. And I've even heard Feng Zhu, if you don't know who he is and you want to get into concept art, look up Feng Zhu. He's corroborated this, okay? If you're doing that, you're doing what literally everybody is doing. You're creating the same stuff and you're just doing random things that seem really popular that you've seen big names do, but you're not a big name. Not yet, friend. And so if you're doing that, it's really low level impact stuff. Zooming out from there, you're gonna create average value work. This is when you're gonna do things like, okay, I don't just wanna do randomized things. I'm gonna say, I wanna do fantasy stuff. And you're gonna create a bunch of knights and castles and ladies and warriors and baddies that are gonna be on the side fighting them. Okay, cool, but you know what? It's not that special. And it's what everybody else is doing. Everybody's doing the same thing. And now you might be wondering, okay, well, how do I create higher level stuff so that I can actually get hired by a studio? Here's what it is. If you want to create the highest value stuff, what you have to do is show your dedication, actually be willing to work on an entire project. Y'all, if you want to get into concept art, the same advice that you will hear from everybody is that you have to specifically target who exactly you want to work for. You have to look for, okay, I want to work for this company, I want to work on this project, because concept art is not about training you. It's about hiring you and inserting you into a project. So if you can show them, hey, look, here are all of these assets I created for this project, boom. This makes you extremely marketable. And then that brings me into the value that you're gonna create. So check this out. If you're gonna create really base, boring content level stuff, you can expect to have extremely low marketability. That means that people aren't gonna hire you because you are an extreme risk to the company. You might be great, but they don't know that because your artwork and your portfolio doesn't reflect it. If you're gonna do average value, this is when you can expect to be really hit or miss. You might be in between jobs a lot. You might be a good fit for this company, but definitely not for any of these. And this is when, again, it's just because you're not focused enough. You're not showing how you create great assets for a company and showing that you can create a product. And again, if you're creating highest level, like right here, this is when you're gonna go ahead and show that you are a necessary member. You want to be valuable for companies because they will reciprocate that value back to you, and then you will get more jobs. This is also, by the way, at the point where more opportunities will come your way. And this can be in concept art, it can be in any field, but the more you get in with these, the more you're gonna get back out of it. How's that sound? Does that make more sense? Next, let's talk about how you should go about building multiple incomes. Are you this type of person where maybe you have multiple interests and you wanna build multiple businesses? But I wanna warn you, a lot of people don't know the most valuable way to do this, and definitely how to even sustain it and make sure it aligns to you. Is this your concern? Because if so, and you wanna build this the right way, here's what you need to know. So go ahead and check out this video right here where I'll teach you how to do it the right, sustainable way. And hey, if this helped you again, please share with somebody that you know. Thanks so much and see you next time.